Hi, and welcome back to yet another exciting week of the Lazy Money Game. In this week's episode, I will start by giving an update to my portfolio. Then we're going to look at some market news, namely the US inflation numbers and this collapse of the FTX exchange filing for bankruptcy protection. And at the end, I'm going to answer a question from the audience as well. So let's start with a quick portfolio update. If we go to the portfolio values tab, you can see that the portfolio is up in value compared to last week, but I'm actually down compared to when I made my last episode in week 43. And at the same time, you can see here that the cost has stayed unchanged, meaning that I have not done any new investments over the last 2 weeks. If we then continue to my favorites tab, namely the dividends tab, then we can see that November is off to a pretty good start since I've already received more than $200, and they came from Bristol Myers, Verizon Communications, and General Dynamics. So I'm closing in on the $5,000 mark here, which is the next goal. If we go to the goals tab here and scroll all the way down, you can see that goal number 35 is $5,000 in yearly dividends. If we then go back to the overview arc here and scroll all the way to the top, just so you can see how each individual position in my portfolio has been performing over the last couple of weeks, then it's a good time to pause the video so you can take a closer look if you want to do so. And on the smallest dividends update, Verizon Communications has updated their dividend from 64 cents to 65 cents per share. They actually did that some time ago, but the dividend which I have received this month was the first time that they are with this 65 cents instead of 64 cents. So if you are new to this channel, then you might ask, why do I focus my attention so much of a 1 cent per share in dividend increase instead of focusing on the fact that I'm down more than 30% since I initiated my investment in Verizon Communications? I'm actually down more than $1,700. Well, this is due to the fact that I do not expect that I will be able to buy at the absolute bottom or sell at the absolute peak. I view all my investments as long-term holdings, and if I didn't, then I wouldn't be true to my strategy. So that was just a quick update to my portfolio. If we then continue to the next topic, namely the US inflation rates, since the latest inflation numbers came out this week and they were actually lower than expected. So if we go to trading economics, which you're seeing on the screen now, you can see here how inflation has peaked at 9.1% and now we are down to 7.7%. And what is more important here is that the inflation is dropping faster than what the market is expecting. So if we take a look at how the S&P 500 reacted to this, then when we are looking at a weekly chart here for the S&P 500, it is no surprise that it was on the 10th of November that these inflation numbers came out. Since if the inflation rate is falling faster than the market were predicting, well, that means that the Federal Reserve's interest rates increases are working, and perhaps investors are now starting to think, well, maybe the Federal Reserve will start to slow the speed at which they are increasing the interest rates, or perhaps they will even cease to stop it. And if you are new to investing, then you might ask the question, why is there this relationship between interest rates and share prices? Well, basically you can think of it as if the interest rate is high, that means that you can get a return which is high without any risk. Meaning, if you're going to buy stocks, that means that you have to be compensated with a higher return in order to take that risk. And in order to have a higher return on shares, then they need to cost less when you buy them, since shares become more risky, not less, when the price increase. We then continue to the next topic, namely the collapse of the FTX Crypto exchange. Well, this is really a thing that is outside my circle of competence. I simply do not understand it, but nonetheless, it's something that has taken a lot of time in the media, since when an exchange which was valued at around $32 billion less than a month ago is filing for bankruptcy, then something is really fishy and something smells. So I will highly recommend that you go and watch Patrick Boyle's video here. It's around 26 minutes long. There are so many details and it's really, really well explained. If you want to know more, I simply have nothing to add. I think he covers the topic perfectly. I know it might seem quite odd that I'm just asking you to watch a different YouTuber's video, but I mean, I do not know enough about crypto, and especially not to try and tell you how I would do, since it's very easy. I would simply just stay away. But what is more important to me is, look how many financial YouTubers have been advertising for different crypto brokers. I mean, did they understand what they were doing, or were they simply just happy to receive a paycheck for advertising in something which they really didn't believe in themselves? If we then continue to my portfolio and questions from the audience, then I have received a question that goes like this. Any thoughts on Abbvie and patent expiration of Humira? So before I dive into the details of this question, let me start by highlighting on Abbvie's investor relationship page. You can go in and find the annual report all the way back to 2012. This is a really good place to start if you want to know more about the business. And since we are talking about a pharmaceutical company here, it makes perfect sense that I'm receiving a question regarding patent expiry, since this is one of the major business risks when you are investing in a pharmaceutical company. When a patent expires, that means that your competitors can now try and sell a product which is very similar to the one you had. And in the pharmaceutical industry, you actually have manufacturers who are known as biosimilars. A good example just in my portfolio would be Viatris. They are known as a biosimilar company. So let's try and answer your question here. What is my thinking about this expiration of Humira in 2023? Well, if we are looking at this 10K form from Abbvie from 2021 here and go to page 19, we can see that Humira accounted for approximately 37% of Abbvie's total net revenue in 2021. So obviously this has a major impact on Abbvie's cash flow going forward. So the natural question to ask is, of course, how much of the net revenue will be affected when Humira comes off its patent in 2023. So if you scroll all the way down here to page 47, we can see that the net revenue in 2021 was 56 billion. And of those 56 billion, it was more than 20 billion that came from Humira. So as was stated further up, 37% of the cash flow comes from this single product. So how much of this will be affected and how fast will it be affected? Unfortunately, I do not have a clear answer to any of those questions. What I have done is I have, for instance, read an article like this, which I will leave a link for in the description down below, where the headline is 2 decades and 200 billion, Abbvie's Humira monopoly near its end. Here the reporter is going through and describing what kind of measures Abbvie are taking regarding their patent expiry. Since it's not just one patent, they have actually filed for more than 250 patents around Humira, where more than 130 of those has been approved. So unfortunately, I cannot give you a clear answer. The only thing which I have shown you here is that they are really ready to fight tooth and nail to try and protect their business for as long as they possibly can, since that will give them time to find replacements or other sources of revenue income generating pharmaceutical products, which is basically what they need to do. So maybe this is why Buffett has sold out of Abbvie, since, he likes to buy companies where he can predict where the company will be in 5 to 10 years from now. Unfortunately, here I can't really tell where they will be. I can only see that what they have is that they have a marvelous product that a lot of people has had great success using. So hopefully this answered your question, and that actually sums it up from this week's episode. So if you have enjoyed the content and made it all the way to then please consider leaving a like or subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. And until I see you next time, bye!